Eyes of the Pharaoh, WHAP assignment. In 3000 BC, the Egyptian civilization came to be. Queen Nephthotep and her husband King Menes ruled over Egypt. Ancient Egypt is a civilization of ancient northeastern Africa along the Nile River. Queen Nephthotep woke up and decided to look over the civilization. She went to her palace balcony and saw slaves come up to her offering her breakfast. She looked out into the distance and saw the peasants farming wheat, barley, vegetables, grain, and various fruits, with domesticated sheep, goats, cattle, and pigs in the area as well. She smiled as she remembered that today was trading day and that she would be getting new precious stones, animal skins, and perfumes to add to her collection. She wanted to check on everything going on in civilization. "I want to visit down below. Call my husband and I a seat and chair," she demanded. Her slaves scurried around quickly to make sure that everything was perfect for their pharaoh and queen. "It's ready, my queen," a slave told her. He led her to the chair where 6 slaves were standing, ready to carry the queen and the pharaoh around Egypt. "Where is my husband?" she asked a noble. "Dear queen, he will not be accompanying you, for he has important things to tend to with his visor." She gave a wave off with her hand, and the noble scurried away. The soldier helped her up onto her chair. As she was carried throughout her land, farmers, craftsmen, merchants, soldiers praised her. To her right, farmers were using the newly invented animal-drawn plow. Little boys were helping out in the fields. She passed the market where merchants, craftsmen, and farmers were selling as much of their goods as they could. The queen gave them a slight nod as she passed. Meanwhile, King Menes was tending to the conflict in Egypt. The pharaoh King Menes ruled politically with his visor, who represented the pharaoh in the administration of the land, treasury, and legal system. The Egyptian civilization is suffering due to weak periods of rule and invasions. As he was much weaker of the centralized government, King Menes worried that he wouldn't be able to maintain the harmony that his people expected of him. Ancient Egypt's economy was based on agriculture. The majority of the Egyptian people were peasant farmers. Because of the fertile nature of the Nile, they were able to produce large surplus which sustained King Menes and his court. Their farming practices allowed them to grow their staple food crops. As agriculture grew, numerous towns dotted the river bare and local markets. As Queen Nephthotep traveled throughout the land, she saw workers building the famous architectural pieces of Egypt, pyramids. Pyramids were used as burial sites for pharaohs and were decorated with lively, colorful art so that the pharaohs would be surrounded of objects of beauty, palaces, and furnishings. The building of these have also caused pollution into the Nile River, which is their main source of economy. After a long day, Queen Nephthotep decided it was time to go back to the palace. When she got back, her son was working on math and writing hieroglyphics, the new developed papyrus. Egyptians were advanced in math and also excelled in art forms such as pottery, jewelry, and miniature sculpture. She smiled at her son and thought what a smart pharaoh he would be. As she went to lay down, a noble came up to her frantically telling her that King Menes was severely sick and was on his deathbed. She gasped and ran to her husband to see he was dead. She was distraught, but she knew that King Menes would achieve his supreme happiness in another world. Gender structures were very different in Egypt than other civilizations, because women were recognized as equals to men and royal women occasionally, and were racing significant political power. Queen Nephthotep made sure that Egypt's harmony would be kept as she resigned. A few days later, King Menes's funeral rituals were said from the Book of the Bead as he was put into his pyramid. Because King Menes and Queen Mephthotep's son was not of age yet, the queen took over as the leader of Egypt.